Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Sarah. 6 years ago, 6.5 years ago, I started coming to Colombia. In 2018, I quit my job, sold everything I owned, and basically bought a one-way ticket. And yeah, 6.5 years later, I have been living off and on in rural Colombia for the past 3 years. In today's video, I thought that I would talk about 5 things I wish I knew before moving to rural Colombia. This is basically going to be the things that caught me the most off guard when I did move here. I have done other videos talking about other general basic things, but these are the 5 things that had me like, did I make a mistake? Oh my gosh, what am I doing? So if you're not subscribed, I would appreciate it if you subscribe and hit the like button if you feel inclined. As if you are someone who prefers to read, this blog post that I'm going to be getting my information from that I wrote is going to be linked down below in the comment section if you prefer to read. So let's get started. The number one thing is going to be probably the most stressful if you're someone like me who works online. Wi-Fi and electricity are not always going to work. The Wi-Fi does go out intermittently, as well as your Wi-Fi connection might not be as strong as it is in your hometown. But it does work. When it works, it works. But for example, the other day, I think it was Monday morning, I woke up, 8 o'clock, I had Wi-Fi. Didn't think twice about it. I had a call scheduled at 10 for this work that I'm doing, and at 9 o'clock the internet went completely out. I don't have a SIM card, I don't have anything. I had no idea what was happening. I was like, maybe our bill didn't get paid, maybe it's just out into town. Came back on at like around 12:30. That was it. You just have no idea what's gonna happen. Sometimes the electricity goes out, and if the electricity goes out, obviously the Wi-Fi is out as well. So those are just things, especially if the town is, last week was Semana Santa, so the town was full of people, so it could have burned out the Wi-Fi. I have no idea, I don't know. But if we have a bad storm, electricity, Wi-Fi can also go out. Like yesterday, it was downright storming. The Wi-Fi was off and on for a few hours, so it wasn't working super great. Yet, if you are someone who is reliant heavily on Wi-Fi, Starlink is now in Colombia. So the school that I volunteer at has Starlink internet, so that is an option if you need really great Wi-Fi. I think it's like the best Wi-Fi I've ever used. So Starlink is available here in Colombia. The second thing, here living in rural Colombia, you have to kind of have the internet, and the electricity goes out, you really need to know how to roll with the punches, because things are going to happen that are completely out of your control, and you're going to either have to accept that these things happen while living in a different country, especially when you get outside of the big business cities. Once you're outside of Medellin, Bogota, or Cali, Cartagena, things roll a little bit slower. Time moves slower out here, as well as you have to be really okay with if something happens, like maybe it takes some time. Like if my internet goes out, I have to like take a few deep breaths and just say, okay, it's either gonna come back on, or I need to walk into town and talk to the provider and see what's going on. You have to adapt a slower, more relaxed lifestyle mentality, or you will drive yourself absolutely insane. I noticed also, if you're in any of the Facebook Medellin expat groups, a lot of people in there complain about things. They complain about everything. So if you aren't willing to adapt to a different life, then you're gonna have a really, really hard time, and you're gonna struggle a lot just understanding that the countryside is going to even be a little bit different than if you were in the city. When I'm in Medellin, everything works as it does in a normal city in the United States. But once you come about 3 hours outside, 3-4 hours like I've been living, it's going to be a totally different ball game. And the campesinos function differently. If you don't adapt that, if you're not adaptable and you can't like accept things, then you probably should go back to the city. But if you're okay, slower living is great, then you'll be fine. The third thing, in the big cities, for example, if I'm in Medellin, I go to XOXO or Jumbo, I can find anything that I need, especially if it's something imported from the US. You might pay higher price for it, but it's gonna be there. You can do Rappi online, you can order, I think you can order Amazon, if not Amazon, Mercado Libre. Here, we have a De Uno, which is like an Aldi for you, those of you who live in the US, and they're all over Colombia. With that said, they're really small stores, and the availability of products that you might want or need, even for something, if you're cooking something or just in general something breaks. I'll give you a great example. My computer charger decided to stop working. So I have to borrow a friend's to charge my computer because there is not a charger in the town that works for my computer. I can go to Medellin and buy a new one, or I can wait till I go home in April and buy it for like half the price, because it is way cheaper for me to order it on Amazon, pick it up when I go home, than it is to buy it here. I can order it on Mercado Libre, or I can go to Medellin, which is going to be 3 hours and 3 hours. Luckily, I have a friend who has the same one. So the availability of what you need is going to be significantly decreased. Just keep that in mind if you decide to move here. Is it a big deal for me to go to Medellin to get something that I need? No, absolutely not. But I try, if I can do a workaround and borrow a friend's computer, a friend's charger when I need it, that's what I'm gonna do, because I am too lazy to drive to go there. I don't want to take the bus. I don't want to go to the store. And then if I order it online, I have to tell them to drop it off. And how long will it take? I don't know. Things move a little bit slower. And if it's not available and I can have a workaround, I'm going to do the workaround until I go home, and then I'm going to have it delivered to my house in 2 days at half the price when I'm already going to the US. So you will notice that there will be things that you might need that these stores do not carry. That is a huge one for a lot of people who either want to move to the countryside, or maybe a lot of people don't move to the countryside because of this issue, because there are less availability of things, and getting things is not as easy if you live in rural like Kentucky. It's much different, because Amazon still goes to rural Kentucky. Amazon's not going to come here. Mercado Libre will come, it's just going to take longer, and then you're going to have to drop it off in town, and when they have to call you, you have to go pick it up. It's a whole workaround, and usually you're going to need somebody a local to help you organize this. So, which is why it's really important to have local friends or local contacts. Number 4, if you are like me and you are light-skinned, light hair, light eyes, you will stand out like a sore thumb. I won't stand out as much as if I'm in maybe Bogota, because the people in Bogota are lighter skinned like me, and the people in Medellin are a bit darker. They have like dark black hair, brown eyes, and a darker complexion. So I'm in the area of Antioquia, which is not far from Medellin. So I stand out. You can look at me and instantly tell that I am a foreigner. So if you look like me, and if you have lighter skin, lighter hair, lighter eyes, you are going to stand out like a sore thumb. So just be aware that that is going to happen. I personally don't care. I've been used to it since being here for off and on for 3 years, and coming here since 2018. For me, it's just something that I deal with. People are always going to ask you, why are you here? Where are you from? How do you like Colombia? Do you like being here? So they're always going to ask you these questions, and then you have a chance to interact with the people as well and talk to the locals around here and practice your Spanish. So yeah, for me it doesn't bother me, but I do know a lot of people that that want to blend into the background. If I'm in Medellin, I can blend in. There's so many tourists there. In Bogota, they're lighter skinned, and there's a lot of tourists there, so I can kind of blend into the background. But here in a small town, you cannot blend into the background. There are tourists, and they stay a few days, they leave. But like when you're staying here for a long time, people start to notice. They're like, oh, you're still here. Oh, you're still here. Why are you still here? What are you doing? They start asking you questions. which leads me into point number 5. Very few people speak English. So the other town that I lived in before I lived here, almost absolutely nobody spoke English because it was further away from the city and less tourism. Here in Jerico, a few more people do speak English, especially because the tourism has significantly tripled or doubled at least, because Jerico is getting more popular. A lot of people go to Jardín. If you're in Jardín, it's very touristic. And Jerico is becoming more popular because there's like the Spanish school, as well as there are more hostels. Because I was here about 2 years ago and there was like 1 hostel. Now I think there's like 2 or 3 or 4 maybe. So people are starting to come here more. So which does open up to, you know, more English speakers and more people who understand English. But for a general rule, the landlords here, they don't speak English where I'm living. If I go walk down the street, no one speaks English. I met the owner of the hostel next door to me and she did not speak English. So have Google Translate ready or take some Spanish classes. If you're interested in taking Spanish classes, I'll drop my friend's link, as well as the school, who they work it's like 15 minutes away from here. But yeah, so they have that. So you can learn while you're here, or you can start taking classes online before you come to Colombia. But if you're in the big cities, a lot of people speak English, and I know on the forums people are like, oh, no one speaks English here, but I think a lot of people nowadays do speak English in Medellin and in Bogota. But if you're in the little areas, the little suburbs and little barrios, then yeah, it's going to be less people speaking English. But the rise of tourism has increased. In the 6 years that I've been coming here, it definitely has increased with how many people at least can understand. But if you're coming to these little small towns, like Jerico is pretty popular, but if you're going to the one where I used to live, no. Just no one's going to speak English. So these are just 5 things that you should be aware if you are going to move to rural Colombia. Visiting is fine, but when you spend longer time somewhere, these are things that will actually start to kind of grate on your nerves, and you're like, oh my God, I'm sick of no one speaking English. I'm sick of not being able to buy what I want. I'm sick of the electricity and the Wi-Fi going out. And it is a learning curve to living somewhere and immigrating to a different country. There's a huge learning curve, but if you can get through the headaches and the hassles and the annoyingness and just kind of like learn to integrate yourself into where you're living, it will be completely a much different experience, and you will actually enjoy it once you start to learn to speak the language. Even if it's just a few words here and there, they really appreciate it. And one thing about Colombia is the Colombians are really patient with you when you try to speak. So it's a great place to come if you are learning Spanish as well. And I always advocate leave the cities because, I don't know, I don't like the cities, especially it's just not the same as the countryside. I think the real beauty in seeing Colombia is going more into the countryside. Even though Jerico is touristy, Jardín is touristy, it's still the countryside. There are still the old school, the campesinos, and how they look like a paisa, and they have the machetes and the sombreros and the shawls, and you know, they're in the square drinking coffee, and they're riding their horses. It's very, very picturesque, and it's a more authentic way to travel. So yeah, I have a new blog. I will link it below. And I talk about all things moving and living in Colombia, basically the same as this YouTube. And yeah, so thank you so much. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if someone you know is wants to move to rural Colombia, share this video. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.